Hi, this is GS from uoe.organization, and today we are discussing about while loop. In previous session, I given introduction what is loop, and we discussed about for loop. So today in this session we are going to discuss while loop. Once again, I am giving little bit definition of loop because it's very important. I mean, what is loop means? Loop can execute a block of code. I mean, between the loop block of code a number of times until the specified condition either true or false. So today we are going to discuss about while loop. I told in previous session what is for loop means. For loop means it execute specified conditions until it returns false. I mean, we use for loop if you know what the specified number of times we want to loop means. When we know in advance how many times you want to execute particular block of code, so for that we use for loop. But when we use while loop means, when we don't know in advance how many times of your block of code will be executed. If you know how many times of block of code will execute means we will use for loop. If you don't know how many times of block of code will be execute means we will use while loop. So while loop is nothing but it is a commonly like a for loop, but uh, it will while loop will be loop until as long as the specified condition evaluates to true. Suppose I will give the condition. I'm giving syntax of while loop. Commonly it is mostly commonly used loop in PHP, because while we getting records from database means we don't know how many records are there in database, because it may be increment after day by day, because if registration users has been increased means the database records also increase. So as the we don't know how many exactly records in database, so at that time if you don't know how many records want to be loop means we will use while loop. So maxly while getting records from database we use of while loop. For loop means if you know exactly how many records in database means at the time we will use for loop. Okay, syntax of loop is this same like for loop. While syntax is commonly for in three languages, like either in JavaScript it is same, PHP it is same, and even in .NET also same syntax it has. Here we will place condition while loop close room. Here statements are is to be executed. Becomes true until condition specified condition becomes true, the statement will be executed. True. This is the syntax of while loop. So right now I will show you practically how this while loop executes. Hiding this. So suppose I want to print a numbers from 1 to 100 using while loop. Basically, let us assume that this is a variable because right now actually while I'm giving example with while loop means I want to give example from database, because we didn't start with PHP. Once we started PHP means you can easily understand by when I'm getting records from database, and while I'm using while loop I'm printing that record means you can easily understand how while loop execute dynamically. Because right now I'm not saying getting records from database, because once we started with PHP we can discuss further. So in further sessions we repeatedly deal with for loop or while loop, because this using these loops only we can print data. So once we started with PHP means definitely in every example we will use while loop or for loop. At the time you will get clear idea. Right now I'm giving just basic idea on for loop and while loop, how it's work. Suppose let us assume that I want to bring a count from 1 to 100, so I am printing count equal to 0 here as a variable, and while loop. In this while loop as per syntax I want to put condition like until count less than 100. I want to print count like current count is something like, I want to print this count. And also break, I want to give break, because for every statement it will break. Okay, so increment, for a while loop we have seen increment plus plus, so but for this it will come in the downside of the statement count plus plus. For every first of all let me check it's working or not. Save as this while loop dot html. Print this. Yes, it's printing. Means what is happening here means I have put a variable count as a condition is 0, means it will start from 0 to 100. So in while loop I put that condition until 0, I mean this count variable less than 100 I want to print this statement. Means until the count becomes like 100, until it will print this statement. Means first of all it checks as 0 is less than 100. Yes, it's true. So it prints the statement, and it will increase to 0 plus, into 1 as increment, like same like for loop it will now it will increment to 1, and next time here it will comes to count as 1, and it will check that 1 is less than 100. Yes, it's true, and it will once again it will print this statement, and it's now it will come as 1 plus 1 2. It will now it will be 2. It will check 2 is less than 100, it will print the statement. Now it will be increment to 3, 2 plus 1 as 3, and until the condition until this condition specified condition satisfy, it loops the statement. Suppose just statically placing here the condition, actually here count will taken from database itself, but we are right now we are not discussing in PHP, we are just discussing JavaScript. So I am just assumed that count as 0. So until specified conditions satisfy, it will loop this condition. So here I can say once the conditions once the count become 100, the condition is satisfied, so the loop will be stopped. Document dot write If you refresh, yeah, I mean until, if you check here, it is printing from 0 to 99, means totally it will be 100 records. So until, what is the statement of the loop is, the while loop is another commonly used, same like for loop. I mean, the while start repeating as long as the specified condition evaluates to true. So until means 0 is less than 100 is true. So until it condition becomes true, until it will loops the statement. Suppose if it is 100 less than 100, it is not true, condition is not true, so the loop will be stopped. So we can say that the loop will repeat as long as the specified condition evaluates to true. So if you see here records, if you see here records, it's specified from 0 to 99, because up to 99 means here up to 99 is less than 100 is true. Up to here, up to this condition, the loop specified condition is true. So up to the condition it prints the records, but 100 is less than 100 is false, so it stops the execution. So the loop is stopped in 99. So we can say that the while statement loop as long as the specified condition evaluates to true. And if you see, you may get doubt what's the real difference between for loop and while loop, because both are printing the looping statements until the specified condition is true. The major difference is, as I tell in before, once again I am saying that the major difference for loop and while loop is, for loop is used when you know in advance how many times you want to execute the particular block of code. I mean, you know, in for loop you know how many times the particular block of code want to be executed. At that time we will use for loop. And what is when we use while loop means, this while loop is used when in advance you don't know how many times of your block of code will be executed. Means you don't know how many times of the block of code will be executed, because you suppose you are getting records from database, means you don't know that how many records are there in database. At the time you use this while loop. I mean, this while loop read records until the end of the file. Totally it will read the records end of the file. Okay, I can't say this is the end of the loops, because in coming sessions, once we start with PHP, we can see much practically uses of for loop and while loop. So for this session, this is about looping statements, and I can say that for this JavaScript purpose, these examples are good enough. In coming sessions, we can take look depth on this loop statements. That's it about these looping statements. Thank you.